Rev up your engines!
The Chinese car manufacturer Geely, it's a big company, they make cars for a long time, claims it has a corona-fighting electronic vehicle. You know, they're all jumping on this coronavirus thing. Now, to reality of cars, for a long time, the Geely has been making cars that filter the air much better because the air in China is so polluted. A lot of the Chinese themselves are worried about it, so they have extremely well-made filtration systems in these Geelys. Now, of course, there's no guarantee that they can filter it out. They just use it as a sales gimmick, like everybody else these days. They say that their new Icon SUV, electric SUV, has an N95 certification for air purifying. They have an air purification system that is N95 certified. So it is making the air pure. There's no doubt in that. If you got allergies, especially pollen and stuff, hey, not that you can buy one yet in the United States. You know, they're electric vehicles made in China. Now, Tesla has that bioweapon defense mode that's supposed to filtrate stuff out, and they were using that as a selling point for people in California during the big fire that they were having because it gets rid of a lot of the pollution from that, all the little particles that are floating around, some of the noxious vapors. And so far, Geely has 30,000 pre-orders for this electric vehicle, so I guess their little advertising campaign is working. But like any scientist will tell you, there's no proof that this is going to stop a virus from getting in. I mean, they are so small, and there's so many ways of getting stuff. I mean, you're going in and out of the car, too. It's not like some space movie where, you know, they're decontaminating you when you come from outer space into the rocket, and then you're not being decontaminated every time you come in and out of the car. So some of this stuff is a bit fanciful, if you ask me. All right, everybody's going nuts about the coronavirus, and now people are worried about getting foreign car parts or foreign cars, especially from China. Okay, what are the real risks? Well, the CDC says there basically aren't any because the virus can only last for 2 hours or so on steel, aluminum, plastic, so it takes a lot longer than that to get from China all the way over here. And that they also feel that physical contact with something isn't enough to give you the virus. It's not like somebody sneezes a rhinovirus on a door handle, you touch the door handle or a shopping cart, you can get it. They claim that that doesn't work that way. It's nothing like being on an airplane with somebody who has the virus, who's breathing, it's going through the air, people are breathing it through. Completely different situation. So unless you buy something from China and a Chinese guy comes with it, and you really don't have to worry about packages coming from China either because they take so long to get here. I mean, every time these Chinese companies are always sending me stuff and hope that I use them in their videos. Some of the stuff is okay, some of it's junk, I try them out. They say they're going to send me one. Sometimes it's like 3-4 months later. You really don't have to worry about that. That's not a big worry. Kind of like the people worrying about drinking Corona beer because it's got a similar name. It has nothing to do with it. So don't worry about car parts or cars coming from China. By the time they reach here in the United States, like I said, unless there's some Chinese guy in the back seat, you really don't have to worry about it. Mercedes says they're streamlining stuff and they're going to cut a whole bunch of models. They say they're going to cut the S model convertibles. For people who don't know the truth is, last year in the United States, Mercedes-Benz sold more trucks than they did cars. They bought Freightliner, they're building trucks in the Carolinas. They're finding that hey, there's a lot more profit to be made in trucks because they're commercial. People buy them. They put a lot of mileage on them. They wear them out, and then they buy more. And the luxury market is only so big. So Mercedes is saying they're going to start cutting a bunch of their platforms of cars that they've been making for quite some time. Now, Europe has tightened Euro 7 emissions, so the big ones, like the giant V12 ones, they'll probably go by the wayside because they pollute more and they get worse gas mileage. And hilariously enough, Mercedes is going to stop the selling of their X-Class pickup trucks they were selling. Yeah, they tried to get into the pickups too, you know, but they didn't really make them. They were just like rebadged Nissan Frontiers. It was just a kind of a scam, just like Toyota selling Supras that are really BMWs. I mean, that was kind of a foolish thing for them to do, but they're going to stop that too. Top of the line S-Class, they're not going to make the convertibles and sedans anymore. They're going to cut those out. Mercedes-Benz is folding to economic pressures and downsizing how many cars they're making. And they say that they're looking towards the future where it's going to be more electronic, and they're putting a lot of electronic variants, just like Volkswagen. Being a European country, they have more laws that they're going to have to follow along, and it looks like Europe is going to push greener laws than here in the United States a lot faster. So they'll be forced to drive electric cars and not drive gasoline and diesel cars. So yeah, it only makes sense that a German company is going to be getting rid of some of their giant gas hogs and consolidate productions and work towards electric cars, because their countries might say that's what you gotta drive, and then they'll have to drive them. Jay Beltran says, Scotty, my '07 Camry with 164,000 miles has white smoke come out of the exhaust first thing in the morning for about 15 seconds. Smoke is out of the norm. It's fine for the rest of the day. That many miles, take it to a Toyota dealer. They had kind of a secret warranty on those. The piston rings are bad. I've had quite a few customers get free engine rebuilds on their new piston rings and pistons because of it. Now it's getting older. That's an old 7. It's 13 years old. Maybe they won't cover it now because of age, but I would go and complain. Tell them Scotty sent you. I've done that before, and it often helps people out a lot. That year did have problems. They didn't make the piston rings right. So I would take it in and say, hey, I want this thing fixed free. You fixed all these other people's cars and see what they say. Now, if they don't, running okay otherwise, just keep driving it, because there's nothing you can do other than rebuilding the engine to fix it permanently. So, but go and complain and mention my name. I've got no qualms. And maybe that will fix it. They fixed a bunch of my customers for free. Ricky599 says, Scotty, I plan on buying a used 2003 Chevy Silverado, 87,000 miles. What should I check before buying it? Back then, they were better built than they are today by far. 87,000 miles for that is really low mileage. One, I'd want absolute positive proof that it's the real mileage, not just people saying stuff, receipts from oil changes, yearly car inspections, so they just went up the whole time and didn't all of a sudden drop in mileage one year when they faked the odometer. You want to drive it, city highway, see how it feels, see how it shifts, but of course, you want a mechanic to check it out. It's already got 2 previous owners. You don't know what kind of shape it's in. A mechanic is going to tell you. When I check out a car for people, I can find out what's wrong with it real fast with my fancy scan tools and my years of working on them. That's the only person you trust when you're buying a used car. Don't ever buy it without a mechanic looking at it. Empire 10 says, hey, I got a 2012 Corolla. I drive it locally, do a few stops, shut it off. 15 minutes later, it won't start. I wait 20 minutes, it starts. When this happens, there's no lights at all on. You're not getting power through the system. Now, of course, start with the simple thing. Go to any place, AutoZone, anywhere. They'll load test your battery for nothing, and they'll load test your alternator free in the parking lot. Could be you got a weak battery, a weak alternator. Now, if those check okay, you probably got something stupid like a loose battery terminal or a corroded one. That will happen when there's corrosion. It won't start, and then later it'll start right up because it just gets enough electricity through the corrosion, and sometimes it doesn't. But from my experience, something like that, it's more often just a bad battery. Get the battery load tested first, because a bad battery can do that when they're weak. They'll sit and they won't start right away, but as they sit, lead acid batteries are called lead acid because they got lead and an acid. And the lead and the acid can actually generate a little bit of electricity sitting there, so if it doesn't start right away, 20 minutes later, it might generate enough just to start it. So odds are you just need a battery. Anthony Zingali says, Scotty, what are your thoughts on a 2016 Volvo XC70 T5 all-wheel drive turbo 5-cylinder engine? Has 37,000 miles, been in a minor accident. The Volvo dealer is selling it, says that it was a bicycle or something probably. Right away, don't buy it. It's at a Volvo dealer. They're going to ask way too much money for it. They're just ridiculous. And all dealerships are like that. You're nuts to buy a used car at a dealer unless it's a different manufacturer. You might get a good deal buying a Ford used car at a Toyota dealer. Somebody traded it in. They just want to get rid of it. You might get a better deal. Even then, it's hard to get a good deal. But don't ever go to a car dealership and buy a used vehicle of that make, because they always ask too much money for them. That's just how they are. Those guys have overhead up the wazoo, usually millions of dollars a year. They got to pay that millions just to break even. And guess what? They're going to charge way too much for the used cars. 1207 says, Scotty, my girlfriend has a 2013 Nissan Rogue, 75,000 miles. She has an issue. When she's driving the highway for a long hour, she notices the RPMs will skyrocket up, won't accelerate, and then it'll come back down. Okay, sad but true. Your girlfriend should have never bought that pile of junk Nissan. Transmission's going out. I see it all the time in those things. They have those horrible Jatco transmissions in them. And that's what happens. You go all of a sudden, the RPM skyrocket because the stupid thing is downshifting, or it's just slipping in gear and it revs up in the air. They're horrible vehicles. Now, if it only does it after a while on a highway, tell her to just get rid of the thing and get a Toyota. Even if she got to go get a used Toyota, do it. Do not go further, because to fix that thing, you can easily spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 or more, having a transmission either replaced or remanufactured, and they're junky cars anyway. So at least if it runs okay most of the time, get rid of it. Take it to a CarMax. They pay cash for cars. See what they'll pay, and then just get rid of it, because you don't want to get involved in fixing one of those. Even when you spend $1,000 fixing it, a lot of times they're not fixed for long. I've seen people do that. 9 months, year and a half, 2 years later, they just break again because they're not good units. Greg405 says, hey, what do you think about me buying a 2015 Ford F-150 King Ranch with 58,000 miles? Dealers asking 35. Kelly Blue Book listed as 31K private sale. They can be good trucks. They always charge too much at the dealer. That's just how it is with their overhead. All the variables of buying used vehicles. 31K private sale. That means you got to come up with $31,000 to pay somebody. Dealers selling it for 35. They're financing it. You're going to pay them so many $100 a month, right? They're going to get more because they're financing you. Old days, my grandfather's day was a mechanic too. You could go to a dealer and say, well, I'm paying cash, I want a better deal. But today they don't care because they make money on the financing too. So they'll say, that's the price, cash or credit, we don't care. If you're buying from a private individual, of course, it's always cash because they're not going to finance it for you. And that's one of the reasons, amongst many, that they ask so much more money for them at a dealer than they do at a private sale. Warclass 27 says, Scotty, got a 2018 Toyota RAV4, 10,400 miles. It pulls to the left. The alignment came back normal. My tires are showing abnormal wear. Left front 40, 8%, left rear 65%. Whoever's doing the alignment is an idiot. They should not pull. They should not wear like that. And that's the problem with our whole society today, is there are actually less and less true experts that know how to do things, and more chain stores where they're just selling you crap, and they don't have anybody that knows how to do an alignment in the real world. Unfortunately, even here in Houston, places that I've been using for years, they either went out of business or they gave up working on cars and only do big diesel trucks now. Even I have a hard time finding a good alignment shop. They just, the overheads get higher, the land gets sold, then, you know, the guys made their profit, they retired. It's very hard to find a good alignment, guys, but you need to find one because that's a load of bull. If it pulls and they wear like that, you got alignment problems, and they're just not doing it right. And like I say, I've seen this so many times. I've even had a hard time for customers to get their tires balanced right. They'll go to these giant chain stores, and they come back and they say, I got these tires, my car's shaking now, and I'll take tires off and I'll put them on my bubble balance. I say the tire's not even balanced right. I balance it and the shaking goes away. And these are big giant places with fancy computer machines. Yeah, well, you got fancy computer machines and you pay these guys pretty much minimum wage. Guess what? You're going to get crappy workers that don't care, that don't do a good job. And it's unfortunate, but that's what's happening in our society. So you got to ask your friends. You got to find a good alignment shop and go there, because the guys you're going to, they're full of baloney. Willie's Gone Silly 10 says, I got 2018 Dodge truck. It stalls when I'm driving, and there aren't any codes or anything. It'll just stall. There's nothing big wrong, sensor or something going on. It's always going to trip a code when it stalls out like that. Grab all the wiring harnesses. You wiggle them all, and all of a sudden it stalls out. Check all of those wires to see if the connector's loose or something like that. Now, if you wiggle everything and it doesn't stall out, have your battery load tested. A couple months ago now, it was 3 years older than that, but Dodge puts pretty cheap batteries in their vehicles. The only thing wrong was the battery was bad. So it would stall, especially at lower speeds, because it didn't have enough electricity. Modern vehicles are so computerized that if your battery voltage goes beyond a certain parameter and gets lower and lower and lower, it won't have enough to run the whole car. It'll either knock off the ignition or the fuel system, and it won't run anymore. So do the wiggle test, make sure nothing's stalling out when you wiggle them, and if they don't, load test the battery, and you'll probably find that it needs a battery. I mean, it's amazing to me. You know, it's a 2-year-old vehicle, and the battery's already shot because Dodge puts cheap parts. Even their batteries are cheap when they put it in to save money when they're building them. See, Parfy says, Scotty, I moved to Austin, Texas from Fairfax, Virginia 2 years ago. I can't find an honest mechanic anywhere. I live in Northwest Austin. What can I do? Okay, well, here's the problem. You move to Austin. Infrastructure basically they had then, but they got 3 times as many people. All the yuppies have come in from California with Silicon Valley dudes making their factories and businesses there. That's what's happened to Austin. You're going to have a hard time finding an honest mechanic in Austin, I can tell you. I know people that moved there, moved back here, and they said, I couldn't take it anymore. The yuppies are running around everywhere. 1-bedroom condo was going for $1.5 million downtown. The place has just skyrocketed. So ask your friends, ask around. I mean, maybe, I know the last time I was there, I went to the Grand Prix race, taking the shuttle through the bad parts of town. There's some really junk yards and stuff like that. Well, you might always find mechanics working around there. There might be decent mechanics. And you go to the bad part of town, a lot of times the mechanics work really cheap there. Like in New Jersey and New York, they got bad parts of town that you just drive in and they barter over who's going to fix your car, and they're not that bad mechanics, some of the guys there. If you want to try that, that's what I advise. Or just give up and buy a late model Toyota and don't worry about repairs. John Wickie says, Sir Scotty, what are good security features best for your car? If I buy a car without an immobilizer built in but still uses a key to start it, is it better than the keyless car? Keys, if you have a key car but you don't have an immobilizer, a thief can steal those things easy because the key is nothing. They can go and they can pop your lock out and then just hotwire the car and drive away. It's not that hard to do. Cars have had immobilizer keys for so long. My wife's '02 Lexus, 18 years old, it's got an immobilizer key. It's got a key. Matrix we got, it's got a immobilizer key. I mean, you got to go back to my 94 Celica. That just has a plain old metal copy key. There's no any kind of immobilizer or anything. Somebody could pop that lock and twist wires and steal it real easy if they wanted to. To me, the safest thing is an actual key with an immobilizer chip, because if you have a keyless ignition, you don't need a key to steal that car. So if somebody gets your frequency and has a key, a universal remote key, like say you got a Lexus, they can buy one on Amazon for like $30. Then they got a machine like me to reprogram them. If they get in your car, they can start using their little scanner and they can reprogram that new one that they have to work with your car and steal it. It's not that hard to do for somebody who's really professional at either fixing them or stealing them. I only fix them, I don't steal them, so I don't get involved in that. But, you know, I know how it's done, so anybody could if they really wanted to. But if you have a key with an immobilizer chip in it, they need to have the immobilizer chip and a physical key, and that's a lot harder to do than just doing computer stuff and not needing an actual key. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.